Chapter 27. The Council in Shadows. The room was silent, but it wasn't still. A long table carved from dark wood stretched down the center, its surface gleaming faintly under the dim light of lanterns. The walls were lined with shelves stacked with old books, vials, and symbols etched in languages older than the council itself. Dust hovered in the air, undisturbed by time, but the tension in the room cut through it like a blade. 12 witches sat around the table, some leaning back, others hunched forward, eyes sharp and watchful. No one spoke, but the air hummed with unspoken knowledge, the kind that stuck in your throat like a curse. At the head sat Mayela, dark hair pinned back, the youngest at the table, but the one with the most dangerous power. Her eyes gleamed faintly, catching the lantern light like the flash of a blade. She said nothing, but her stillness held weight. Across from her, Alan, older, sharp-jawed, eyes like cold flint, spoke first. 2 dragons have been seen in Wales, Sarenfe and Tanwyl. The names made the air shift, like a ripple in water after a stone had been thrown. Bonded to witches, Ellen continued, voice flat, disgust curling beneath her words. That's a problem. A dangerous one. We've dealt with dragons before, Darren muttered, voice low, arms crossed. Sealed them. Bound them. We can do it again. And if we don't? Geraint asked, tapping a finger on the table, voice steady but dark. What happens if we let it spiral? Elend's eyes narrowed. It doesn't spiral. We act. Fast. Before those dragons get stronger. Before they take root in the witches. If we let them grow together, it gets harder to separate them. They're already bonded, Idris said. It's too late to stop that. Then we break the bond, Elend snapped. By whatever means necessary. A quiet pause. Then Mayela's voice, soft but cutting. We don't know how strong they are yet. We've only seen the dragons, Sarenfe and Tanwyl, the witches they're bonded to. They might not even understand the full depth of the connection. Darren leaned forward, a glint in his eye. Then what if we take them both out? Dragons and witches. Clean final, no loose ends. A few murmurs of agreement, low and dark. Or we control it, Idris countered. Contain it. If we kill them outright, we risk exposing too much. The council has its rules. Darren's lip curled. The council's rules never stopped us when it mattered. A beat of silence. Elend's voice cold and precise. If this fails, we'll be forced to take it higher. The other councils. The ones we don't want to involve. The air shifted, something sharp and tense in the room, like a line they all knew not to cross. We don't want to involve them, Mayela said quietly. The ones above us, they don't ask questions. They burn first. Ask never. Her gaze swept the room. Find the dragons. Find the witches. Do what we must. No one spoke. But every witch in the room felt the weight of what was coming. The dragons were only part of the storm, and storms could break worlds. No one spoke. But every witch in the room felt the weight of what was coming. The dragons were only part of the storm, and storms could break worlds. Mayela's voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through the quiet like a blade. And if we have to, we'll go higher. A pause. The room darkened, like the very walls had heard the words. No one said the name of the place. No one dared. Because in the shadows beyond the council, there were others. Older, stronger. And if they were called upon, they wouldn't ask questions. They would burn. The silence lingered, stretching tight across the room like a spell holding back a storm. Mayela's eyes stayed fixed on the darkened table, her voice low and measured. We cannot wait for them to grow stronger. Every day, their bond deepens. We know what happens when dragons and witches merge fully. We've seen it before. A ripple of unease moved across the council. A sharp intake of breath here, a tightening of fists there. Darren spoke, voice edged with frustration. Then why are we still sitting here? If we strike now, we have a chance to break the bond before it cements. Mayela's gaze snapped up, her tone sharp as steel. Because the last time we moved without precision, we lost 3 of our own. This isn't about rage. It's about control. The room stilled again. Idris cleared his throat. We can't risk the higher council's attention. If we go too far, they'll step in. Elend's expression twisted. Let them. Maybe it's time someone else got their hands dirty. A hush followed, an unspoken understanding. Then Mayela's voice cut through the air, steady and cold. No, we hold this. We control this. We don't beg for their power. We prove we don't need it. A low hum of agreement circled the table. A younger witch, eyes shadowed and cautious, leaned forward. And if we can't? Mayela's eyes glittered. a dangerous glint catching in the lantern light. Then we burn everything that moves. If we have to scorch the earth to stop them, so be it. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Myla's gaze settled, a whisper lacing her words. And if the dragons fight back, if they truly wake, then we'll find the ones who know how to bind them. Her words hung like smoke in the air. A name no one dared speak, a place no one dared visit, but every witch at that table felt the chill of the unspoken. Truth, and that beyond the council, there were others far worse than them. They wouldn't ask questions. They would burn. Myela's voice dropped, final, as if carving the words into the room itself. Prepare the circles. Prepare the bindings. We strike before they know we're coming. The witches nodded, some with fear, others with grim resolve. The storm had already begun, and they were the ones holding the match. The lanterns flickered low, casting long, twisted shadows across the table. The room felt colder now, as if the walls themselves had drawn closer, listening. Myela's voice cut through the stillness. We've wasted enough time. Action must be taken, no more delays. Elin tapped her long fingers against the table, each tap like a crack in the silence. We've sent spies before. If they can't separate the witches from the dragons, then perhaps they can't separate themselves from the consequences. Idris grunted. Talk is easy, but we'll need more than spies if this breaks open. A witch with a pale scar down her throat, Tamsin spoke for the first time. Her voice was dry, brittle as bone. We have options. Old spells, unused because they're dangerous. Myla nodded, her expression cold. Prepare them quietly. Rowan, seated at the far end, shifted uneasily. What if the others find out? The higher councils? They won't, Myla said sharply, her gaze slicing across the table. Because we won't fail. The room darkened further, a silent agreement sealed in the air. They spoke no names, but each witch at the table understood. This wasn't just about the dragons. It was about control, keeping the balance of power in their hands, no matter the cost. Myela's final words, low and dangerous, threaded through the air like a curse. If we have to drag them into the dark, so be it. We end this before they even see it coming. No one dared to answer. The lantern flames barely flickered. The match was lit. The door at the far end of the chamber creaked open. A figure stepped inside, older, weathered but sharp-eyed. Their cloak was dark, edges tattered like smoke. The room fell silent as they approached the table, boots soft against the stone. Myela didn't flinch. You're late. The figure inclined their head, voice cool. I was gathering information. Elin's jaw tightened. Well? The figure spoke without hurry, but every word landed heavy. The villagers saw flashes, fire in the sky near the old ruins. They're whispering about shadows moving too fast, about creatures too large to be real. They don't know what they saw, but they saw something. A chill settled over the room. Darren swore under his breath. Myela's voice dropped, dangerous and quiet. And the witnesses? The figure's gaze darkened. Handled. They'll say nothing. Those who might remember, won't. No one in the room looked surprised. Tamsin leaned in, her eyes sharp. If we can't separate the dragons from the witches, we cut the roots instead. What about the others? Rowan asked cautiously. Do we risk the ones above us noticing? Myela's stare locked on his. We've covered our tracks before. We'll do it again, but we don't cross into their domain unless we have no choice. We don't go to them unless we're ready to burn everything. A tense silence filled the room. Every witch at the table felt the weight of that word. Them. The unknown faces beyond the council. The higher powers that watched from the dark. They didn't ask questions. They simply erased what needed erasing. Myela stood, her voice low, final. We have a plan. We move quietly, strike hard, and disappear. Let the world think this was nothing but a shadow passing by. Her eyes swept the room one last time. Prepare the circles. Ready the traps, and watch your backs. Then she left the table, the others falling in behind her. No more words spoken, no more doubts allowed. The match was lit. The fuse was burning, and the storm was coming. The tension in the room crackled like static, but Myela didn't flinch. Her voice was steady, cold as stone. Rowan, Idris, Elin, start laying the protective wards. I want the circle ready by midnight. Rowan shifted uncomfortably but nodded. Idris's hands tightened into fists, and Aylin's mouth twitched. More grim satisfaction than hesitation. Darren's voice cut through the quiet, a dangerous edge curling into his tone. And what of the dragon's allies? The witches they've gathered? You know they'll stand in the way. Maella's stare hardened, her tone sharp as the crack of a branch. Then they'll burn too. This isn't about mercy. It's about order. A shiver moved across the room. Find them. Track their movements. Don't let them settle. If we push hard enough, they'll make a mistake. Rowan frowned. And if they don't? Maella's eyes glinted like steel. They will. No one argued. The room seemed to lean in closer, as if the walls themselves were listening. The witches shifted in their seats, some nodding, some casting uneasy glances. But none of them spoke. Not about the dragons, not about the witches, and certainly not about the others, the unspoken threat that loomed beyond their reach. Because there were always others. Maella rose from her chair, her voice soft but final. Prepare the circles. Strengthen the bindings. Watch the skies. She paused, her gaze sweeping the table, her eyes hard and unyielding. And remember, this is a council of witches. We don't bow, we burn. The lanterns flickered, casting twisted shadows across the walls. Then the witches scattered, silent, focused, dangerous. They didn't speak of mercy. They didn't speak of hope. They spoke only of the hunt. And in the air, something shifted. A quiet knowing that war was coming. It always was.